Hey everyone, and welcome back to Step Forward. If you're still feeling overwhelmed by emotions like sadness, envy, fear, or anger, leaving your mood tanking and you unsure how to deal with it, if you're still making mistakes and feeling regretful, or have said hurtful things in a fit of rage, then today's book will be a great choice for you. This is a book I've temporarily titled The Power of Emotion: Love, Anger, and Joy. The philosopher Wang Yongming once said, "It's easy to catch a thief on a mountain, but hard to catch the thief in your own heart." The thief in our heart, ultimately, is what Buddhist philosophy calls the 7 emotions and 6 desires. The 7 emotions are the different shades of human feeling, and the 6 desires are our worldly wants. This book focuses on the 7 emotions of humanity, analyzing the feelings that have been with us since birth. Emotions are a current of energy flowing within us. If you can live peacefully with them, you can easily master your own life. Understanding your emotions allows you to interpret them better, empathize with others' feelings, and still protect your own. From there, you can turn your emotions into a source of strength to face life positively. The author of this book is a renowned psychiatrist in France and the United States, François Lelord. He also wrote the global best-selling psychology book Self-Healing and the incredibly famous Hector and the Search for Happiness. Today's book was co-authored with the French psychologist and psychiatrist Christophe André. All right, let's dive into what these 7 emotions are. Is being calm in every situation a good thing? The author poses a question. What if there was a drug called Soma, a pill that could keep you calm in any situation? No matter what trouble you face, your outward appearance would remain unchanged, and you could respond with a heart as still as a calm lake. You would no longer be easily swayed by worldly emotions. Wouldn't this be the magic pill to help us achieve the goal of a calm mind and peaceful spirit? So, would you want to buy this pill? But the author adds that before you decide, you need to understand its side effects. First, without the influence of emotion, you would become indifferent to life. Second, because emotions no longer move you, you wouldn't feel pain, which could lead to dangerous behavior for yourself and others. Third, your memory would decline and your judgment would weaken. Fourth, you would struggle to connect with other people. So, do you still want to take this pill? You can see that while emotions cause us a lot of pain, they also give life its flavor and allow us to form deep connections with other people. In reality, emotions are a current of energy flowing within us. If you can live peacefully with them, you can easily master your own life. Understanding your emotions allows you to interpret them better, empathize with others' feelings, and still protect your own. From there, you can turn your emotions into a source of strength to face life positively. The author of this book is a renowned psychiatrist in France and the United States, François Lelord. He also wrote the global best-selling psychology book Self-Healing and the incredibly famous Hector and the Search for Happiness. Today's book was co-authored with the French psychologist and psychiatrist Christophe André. All right, let's dive into what these 7 emotions are. 1. Anger. This is the emotion that probably frustrates many of us daily. You'll notice that many people, when angry, tend to freak out and engage in behaviors like smashing things, slamming doors, or even becoming aggressive. On the other hand, some people when angry choose to swallow it, bottling up their frustration without expressing it. However, when facing anger, both exploding and suppressing it are the wrong approaches. The right thing to do is to face it directly, understand it, and then resolve it. But to understand it, we first need to know, why am I angry? The causes of anger seem complex, but they can be summarized as follows. First, you're angry because you don't want something to happen. Second, someone might have intentionally done something to you. Third, what's making you angry goes against your core values. And finally, the most important factor, you get angry because you believe you can control the situation and you allow yourself to be angry. For example, if you're walking in a forest and suddenly encounter a tiger, would you get angry? Of course not. Most people would be terrified because they know they can't control the situation. But someone like the hero Wusong from the classic tales would be different. He could control the situation with his anger.
Think about it. Often, when you get angry and yell at someone, it's because, on some level, you know you can control them. You believe that no matter what harsh words you say, they won't leave you or be able to do anything about it. But remember, no one is completely unleavable, not even those closest to you or your most loyal employees. The people who let you be angry are either people who truly love you or they are afraid of you. And if there's fear, the other person will never be completely sincere, open, or devoted to you. Do you really want a relationship like that for the rest of your life? The solution here is to look inward. The author provides the following methods to help you manage your anger. First, you need to learn to talk to yourself and question your core beliefs. What belief makes you think others must do as you wish? Is this belief completely reasonable? Second, after understanding why you're angry, try to reduce the triggers. For example, if someone at work is always giving you a hard time and making you frustrated, instead of just stewing and seeing their flaws, it's better to find a way to improve the situation or change yourself to eliminate those triggers. To do this well, you need to learn to see things from their perspective. In Buddhist thought, all anger stems from an inflated ego, the feeling that I am very important. My attitude, my values, my self-esteem are what matter most. When you feel you're especially important, many things will make you angry. But when you can put yourself in someone else's shoes, understand why they think the way they do, and ask if you really need to be this angry, you'll be able to master your temper. Fourth, don't make it personal. When you feel the flames of anger starting to rise, focus only on the other person's behavior and don't try to label them as a person. For example, instead of saying, "Why can't you do anything right?" a non-attacking way to express anger is, "You didn't do this correctly." Fifth, think before you act. When you're angry, don't immediately speak, send that text, or post your mood on social media. Give yourself time to cool down. Conversely, don't blindly agree to things when you're feeling especially happy. Sixth, give the other person a chance to explain. It's possible they didn't mean it, and their action might not have actually violated the principle that's making you angry. Seventh, walk away if you can't control your rage. The best thing to do is to physically leave. For example, when you're furious with your child, you can say, "Mommy needs to calm down right now. Let me have a minute." Then go outside or to another room and sit for a while. This is a great way to manage your anger. And the final way to control anger is to let go. Don't cling to every little thing. Truly, when you look back, you'll see that nothing is insurmountable and nothing is that big of a deal. When you can accept things as they happen, your anger will naturally subside. On the flip side, there's an equally important issue. Many people lack anger, meaning they suppress it too much. I must always control my emotions or people will see me as immature. I can never hurt others or I'll feel guilty. These are actually beliefs instilled in you since childhood. They prevent you from getting angry but can lead to depression. As the book Truth at Work mentions, if you have no way to express your anger, it can lead to serious psychological issues and even physical illnesses. The best approach, instead of saying, "I must always control my emotions," or "I can only be angry when I'm 100% right," is to think, "It's right to be angry when I have a reason, but I have the right to make mistakes. Please don't be so hard on yourself." Or instead of saying, "I need to be friendly or people won't accept me," affirm to yourself, "I hope people accept me, but I don't need everyone to like me." 2. Envy. Okay, so that covers our first emotion, anger. The next one is envy. In truth, there's no standard expression for envy because it's rare that you can just look at someone's face and know they're envious. Envy is an internal drama, a gut-wrenching feeling inside. For example, you visit the home of a friend your age. You realize you both graduated around the same time, and they were even a worse student than you back then, but now they have a beautiful house and a prosperous family. On the outside, you're as calm as a river, but inside, your heart is in turmoil, and you start to feel down. Some might think this is jealousy, but it's actually envy. Jealousy is different. According to psychology, envy is directed at someone else's happiness and material possessions. Jealousy, on the other hand, is when you fear that something you want to possess forever is at risk of being taken by someone else. I'll talk more about jealousy later.
This book tells us there are typically 3 types of envy. Depressive envy. People with this type of envy, upon seeing others succeed, often think, good things like that will never happen to me, or I'm so unlucky. These feelings lead to a desire to withdraw. Hostile envy. The classic expression of this is, someone like them managed to do that? People with this type of envy believe no one can be better than them, so they'll find faults, badmouth, or tarnish the other person's image. Admiring envy. He's really good, so it's normal that he got promoted. I'm going to work harder. This third type is a relatively healthy form of envy. So there's good envy and bad envy. If your envy is positive, it will motivate you to improve. But if it's negative, you might do things that hurt others. Envy can be a driver for progress, but it needs to be managed, especially the depressive and hostile types. If envy is causing you pain and killing your spirit, you need to take a step back and get a handle on it. So how do we manage it? Step 1, admit your envy openly. For example, the house you bought is my dream house. Living in a house like this must be amazing. I'm so envious of you. Just saying this out loud can make you feel a lot better, and the other person will too. Step 2, express your envy positively. Feeling genuinely happy for them is a high-energy way to express emotion. For example, I know buying a house isn't easy. This is proof of your hard work over the past few years. I'm truly happy for you. Step 3, check if you have thoughts of inferiority. Things like, my friend is so successful, what about me? Am I moving forward or falling behind? People who think this way always want to show their best side, but you need to know this is exactly what causes unnecessary envy. Conversely, check for thoughts of superiority. If your ego is too big, you'll feel you have to be better than others. When you inevitably fall short, you'll just bring suffering upon yourself through this envy. If you still have these thoughts, you need to move to step 4. Deconstruct the other person's superiority in your mind. The other person's superiority is actually a product of your envious ego's imagination. The author argues that there's really nothing in this world worth envying. If there is one quality we should envy, it's the ability of people to create their own happiness. For example, a roadside mechanic who is happy doing his job. He feels fulfilled. Someone who can dedicate themselves to their work and help others, that is a person worth envying. I hope we can all turn our feelings of envy into motivation to compete with ourselves and no one else. 3. Joy and happiness. Next up is the emotion of joy and happiness. There's a type of smile called the Duchenne smile, discovered by the French physician Duchenne. Did you know? Only people with this smile are truly happy and radiant. This joyful smile involves the muscles around the eyes contracting naturally. Take a look back. How many times a day do you smile naturally like that? Joy and happiness are the emotions with the greatest impact on our lives. Why is that? First, joy makes people generous. This has been proven through experiments, not just hearsay. A psychologist asked a group to participate in a study. After it was over, they walked out and saw a beggar by the door. He found that the participants who had felt amused and happy in the lab were more likely to give money to the beggar. So, does joy lead to generosity, or does generosity lead to joy? In this case, it's a two-way street. So, be generous and give more, and feelings of complete joy will surely come your way. Second, joy makes people more creative and better at making decisions, not just quick decisions, but quality decisions. Joy also helps you be both brave and cautious. We often think that too much joy leads to recklessness, that when people are overly happy, they'll do crazy, risky things. That's not true joy. That's more like pleasure or euphoria. In contrast, truly joyful people are always daring to act, but they may act more cautiously. Joyful people don't like boring work. They choose interesting, challenging tasks. So be ready to proactively take on more difficult jobs at work. This is also a way to become a happier person in your career and give yourself more opportunities to grow.
One thing to note here is that the author divides human happiness into 4 states across 2 dimensions. Let's see which type of happiness you need. Excited joy from the outside. You can think of this as excitement or glee. For example, back in elementary or middle school when you were named an honor student or won a competition. This feeling is common among teenagers. Excited joy from the inside. This is an Aristotelian type of happiness. It's the feeling of achievement when your life's goals are realized, when you throw yourself into a meaningful career and finally succeed, and in doing so, improve yourself. Calm happiness from the outside. This is a feeling of contentment. For example, you and your partner are sitting in the garden, sipping tea, and watching your children play. This kind of happiness will make you smile quietly with satisfaction. Finally, calm happiness from the inside. This is called serenity. It comes when we understand the meaning of our own life and know that life is just the way it is. Life is impermanent. We can live calmly and enjoy the process of experiencing it. These are 4 different types of happiness. Importantly, they are not ranked. Any type of happiness brings high energy. So, to improve our happiness, what do we need to do? First, you need to ask your present self, what kind of happiness is closest to my ideal? What would make me happier right now? What was my happiest moment? What happy moments have I missed? Does what makes me happier depend on me? Always ask yourself questions like these to help you stay on the right track. But you also need to pay special attention to what happiness needs and doesn't need. Happiness doesn't depend on money or age. We always fear old age and think getting older is a terrible thing. But in reality, people tend to feel happier as they get older. No study has proven that young people are happier than old people. The elderly can calmly tell the young, "This too shall pass. You should be happy because you're young and have so many opportunities." But young people don't think that way. Life's troubles cause them pain, and any blow is infinitely magnified. So, what is important for happiness? To be happy, you need good health. Even a small illness can immediately diminish your happiness. Happiness also depends on your personality. See if you can easily find joy and create happiness for yourself. Happiness is also tied to the quality of your marriage and relationships. Be cautious and choose very carefully before deciding to marry someone. And happiness is also about your beliefs. What do you believe in? If you only believe in money, you'll become more miserable. Finally, happiness depends on your career and is influenced by your family and friends. These are the factors a person needs to be happy. But you have to remember that feeling happy isn't about chasing more things that please you. As the author says, happy people are happy because they find happiness in any situation, not because the events or circumstances they encounter are more pleasing than those of others. Happiness is knowing how to be content with your desires and being clear-headed, learning to be indifferent to success or failure, and pursuing the hope of perfection even amidst imperfection. 4. Sadness. All right, next we'll talk about sadness. In life, everyone goes through sad days. Someone gets criticized by their boss, someone loses a pet, someone gets sick, and so on. All of these things are heartbreaking. But ultimately, all sadness shares a common feature: loss. The loss of your boss's trust, the loss of a companion dog, the loss of normal physical function, the loss of wealth, the loss of your own meaning.
All of these are losses, and they will make you feel sad. We always prefer joy and are very afraid of sadness, but sadness is born to teach us to avoid similar situations from happening again. It makes you reflect on your actions, your mistakes, your ignorance, and it also awakens compassion from others, and in turn allows you to empathize with someone when they're in pain. The emotion of sadness isn't as scary as we believe, so don't let yourself get knocked off balance. If you're constantly drowning in sorrow, it will consume you completely. So what should we do when we feel overwhelmingly sad?
The first thing is to accept it. People with deep spiritual beliefs and a rich inner life are very good at accepting and overcoming sadness. They believe that sadness is a result of karma, a lesson for themselves, a path they chose and must walk. With such beliefs, it's easier to change one's perspective on pain, accepting it as merely an experience to realize the value, the lessons, and the wisdom behind it. And from there, you will feel better. Additionally, you can express your sadness carefully to a trusted person. Expressing it carefully means not turning it into a repetitive complaint. After that, try to get out of it by redirecting your focus. Look back at what activities you used to love in the past, or things you've always wanted to experience. Proactively shift your focus to those things. They will help you escape the pain. And if none of these methods help, seek help from professionals, like a psychologist. 5. Shame. Okay, the next emotion I believe many people have and are hiding is shame. Shame is the painful feeling of thinking you are inferior, inadequate, or looked down upon by others. From an adult's perspective, some of the shame children feel is unwarranted. Many young people think their parents are unattractive, dress shabbily, or work manual labor jobs with a rickety vehicle. And they might say things like, "Don't pick me up in front of the school," or "Park over there and wait for me." And surely many will regret this when they grow up. So why do we feel shame? It's when we fail to align with 4 principles of fitting in with those around us. The first principle is consistency. For example, all your classmates have scooters, but you don't. Your cheap, not-so-cool regular bike creates a difference, and this can make some young people feel ashamed. The second principle, a lack of reciprocal behavior, meaning your selfish actions are exposed in front of others and you feel ashamed. The book gives an example. On the first day, a group of college students moves into a dorm and everyone shares snacks from home. But one girl stays behind while everyone is out to eat a cake her family prepared for her. Unfortunately, the group returns just as she's eating. This makes her feel incredibly ashamed. Next, the third principle is about physiology. Every adult has had this feeling during puberty. Some are ashamed of going through puberty too early, some too late, some because they feel different. And the final thing that makes people feel shame is competitive pressure. For example, the whole team has great end-of-month performance results, but you don't. This will make you feel ashamed. Shame has a typical expression that's common to everyone: blushing, bowing your head, and lowering your eyelids. Of course, shame has its own role, and every emotion that sticks with us for years has a reason. The function of shame is to make others more tolerant of us. For example, you're standing in line to pay, but you accidentally drop your bag and everything spills out. If you didn't feel shame at this moment, you would clean up nonchalantly, slowly, and make the people behind you wait. In that case, you would surely be yelled at and criticized. But if you show that you're ashamed, constantly apologize, and quickly clean up, others will empathize with you. You see, shame helps us to the fullest extent to behave properly. But conversely, shame also has its downsides. For example, excessive shame can make you unpopular or even ostracized. A person, especially a teenager, who always slouches, bows their head, and is extremely shy when meeting people, will gradually be excluded by their peer group. What's worse is that there are people who were not insecure but became victims living in shame. A classic example is victims of sexual assault. This has always been a huge pressure for many people because our inner dignity sets certain standards. Even though society says you did nothing wrong and you are the victim, in your heart, you still can't accept it. So how do we manage shame so that it doesn't become a negative energy for us? First, express it.
Every time the feeling of shame is spoken, it will no longer weigh you down. The French writer Annie Ernaux, who won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 2022, has a famous quote: "The worst thing about shame is we think we are the only ones who feel it. But in reality, when you're ashamed, others can sense it. So gently turn shame into embarrassment. Awkwardness and embarrassment are less severe than shame. Shame can invade your inner being, but embarrassment can disappear with a smile."
Additionally, for those who have a habit of intentionally embarrassing you, the best way is to reduce your interaction with them. Some people with immature personalities project their inner fear and anger onto others. So they have a habit of humiliating someone, making inappropriate jokes, or exposing the flaws of those around them. When this happens, we should see through their emotions, sympathize with people like this, and give ourselves space, not becoming a victim of shame. And the final thing is to introspect your inner beliefs. See if you are setting standards that are too high for yourself. And to turn insecurity into something transcendent, you can check out the famous psychology book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, or Adler's work on inferiority, through the videos that Better Version has shared and analyzed in detail. To understand the feeling of inferiority and shame and how to turn it into a superior strength within you. 6. Jealousy. All right, next is the sixth emotion, jealousy. This book analyzes the feeling of jealousy primarily as it appears in romantic relationships and love and marriage, which we often call romantic jealousy, or envy. Jealousy appears when people feel their relationship is threatened. To a certain extent, it can also be a sign of a lack of self-confidence. When the feeling of jealousy flashes within you, it's accompanied by anger, fear, sadness, and sometimes mixed with shame. This is a complex and relatively negative emotion, but it has its own role. In primitive society, when food was scarce, jealousy helped people survive. If a husband didn't feel jealous and allowed his wife to freely interact with other men, it was very likely the child they were raising wasn't his. Or if a wife allowed her husband to have relationships with many others, she might not have enough to eat, as the man would have to support other children. Even in modern society, with plenty of food, we still easily retain the gene for jealousy. It helps us maintain our uniqueness to each other. Romantic jealousy can also cause us pain. The three main characteristics of excessive jealousy are close monitoring, restricting the partner's contact with others, and having a belittling attitude towards you. People with this type of jealousy often have very low emotional energy. So how do we manage jealousy? Like all other emotions, the first thing we must do is acknowledge our jealousy and face it to find a solution. Then ask yourself a few questions like these. Have you ever been hurt by a cheating partner? Were you hurt by your parents' infidelity? Do you feel you're not important enough or attractive enough to hold someone's heart for a long time? Where does this bias come from? Questions like these will make you think a lot. If jealousy continues to cause trouble for you and your partner, seek advice from a professional. Finally, you need to give your partner some private space. When you take away someone's private space, the risk you initially perceived doesn't decrease. It might actually increase. Jealousy is a normal and natural emotion. Although it often makes us feel devalued, it's still a part of a healthy psychology if we know how to manage and face it correctly. It will add a little spice to your life. 7. Fear. Finally, let's get to the emotion that people always try to avoid: fear. For adults, the objects of fear often fall into the following categories: animals like insects, mice, snakes. Some people are afraid of heights, or many faint at the sight of blood. Some are afraid of public speaking or enclosed spaces like elevators. Others are afraid of thunder or water. They panic when water reaches their chest and touches their nose, and so on. Why are we afraid of these things? Because they are all related to sources of danger from primitive society. They brought great harm to humans, so humans became afraid. But humans' fear is not just innate fear from primitive society. Many fears are gradually formed later in life. For example, fears originating from culture, like fear of ghosts. Fears originating from society, like children fearing their parents, students fearing their teachers, subordinates fearing their superiors. The emergence of such fears often stem from the need to avoid being an outcast in our society. Finally, people also have fears that stem from false beliefs in their minds, such as fear of not feeling safe, fear of a partner's betrayal, fear of scarcity, and so on.
Thus, many people have tried every way to control the situation or fill the void with their material world.